Hey, what's up? This is Mark at Alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir and Phoenix by building things. Today we're going to work on a referral marketing system. And if you're not familiar with what referral marketing is, you probably are familiar with what referral marketing is, even if you haven't heard that name. It's basically anytime a site or any business rewards its customers or its users who bring in more customers or users. One famous example would be Dropbox. For many, many years, they've rewarded people who share Dropbox with other people by giving them more space on the free plan. A more recent and more extreme example would be Uber. I remember when I was living in the Bay Area in 2014, they would send out emails saying, here's a referral code. For each person you get to sign up for Uber using this code, we'll give you $20 of free rides. And if you look into it, you might be surprised just how many businesses in all kinds of different industries use referral marketing as part of their growth strategy. And if you think about it, for software, it really makes sense because for most software companies, especially if it's just a service that runs online, the cost of adding an additional customer is almost nothing. So it's often worth it to pay a referral marketer a fair amount, maybe even half of the total cost of the product in order to bring in new customers. And we're going to look at how to set up a referral marketing system on the back end of a website in Phoenix. There are a lot of commercial offerings for this. I believe Stripe has a few partners that they integrate with. Those are fairly expensive though, like hundreds of dollars a month. And there are even some free options, like you saw me using one on Alchemist Camp in earlier videos. However, it wasn't an ideal fit for someone using a backend framework, and it added a lot of extra requests and a lot of weight to page loads, which I don't want to do because keeping the site snappy is one of the most important things to make it a nice user experience. So we're going to look at how to set all of this up from the back end. There are a few steps involved in doing this, so let's go to a new file and make a plan. So as you've probably seen with just about any site, when there's an affiliate program or a referral marketing program, there's going to be a query string added to the URL. So let's say it's on Alchemist Camp, https / alchemist.camp / some page. Then at the end of that URL, it'll be a question mark and maybe question mark refer equals Bob. When someone hits that URL, we have to parse this refer equals Bob out and make sure that we've set that in some way the rest of the application can deal with. So that's going to be step one, is get the refer from the URL. Step two is going to be save the refer so that we can use it later however we want to use it. It's really up to you what kind of reward you want to give someone for referring people. It could be extra space like Dropbox, it could be monetary, it could be giving them some sort of progress tracking or a leaderboard that basically says thank you to the people that have been referring the most people. Whatever it is we want to do with the information, we'll have to save it in some way so that we can access it later in our application logic. Then step three is code the desired reward or incentive. And we're not going to do this part today, but we are going to get the refer from the URL, and we'll save it at least in the session. I have the app running in development locally right now, so we can just take a look at it. Here is the Alchemist Camp webpage that we're very familiar with. Now let's add some visual feedback just so that we can make sure we're getting the refer properly. So we'll go into the file for the header and let's just add refer equals, or referral code is probably a better name, referral code, and then whatever the code is going to be will go in here. It'll be something that we interpret, but for now we don't have anything there. Okay, so referral code is here, and whatever referral code we find will show up there as we're developing. Now, as is common with Phoenix apps, I have created an auth plug, and you can see plug campsiteweb.auth is in my router pipeline. And what this does is it holds several authentication related functions, and like any plug, it has a call function that gets run every single time it's in the pipeline. And as you can see, it's in the main router pipeline. So pretty much anything on the site, even if it's just an API request, will go through this campsiteweb.auth. And in here, I've collapsed each of these functions just so that it's easier to kind of get an overview of what's going on. I've got an authenticate admin function, and you can see it's got two paths. One is if admin user is true, then everything just continues on as it was. Then the other path will either put a 404 if the poker face option was passed, or it'll just say you don't have access to that page. And similarly, there are a couple of functions for making sure a user is logged in with similar kinds of logic if they're not, and making sure that they're a premium user. And I've got some helpers in here, such as put current user, which will set up the assigns for the current user, whether if the user is a member or not, whether or not the user is an admin user. And in this case, I don't even have anything in the database for admin users. I'm the only admin user, so if it's my email address, which is only me, then it's the admin user. And as you can see, for any request made to any page on the site, we get a user, and we put that user as the current user, which is that helper I showed you below, which will set up assigns for current user, admin user, and is member. And as you can see, this call function will always apply put current user to the con and configure a session to renew. So what that means is any page on the site is definitely going to go through that put current user helper that I showed below. So we will always have a current underscore user available in the assigns, and any template can safely use that. And what we want to do is do the same thing for referrer. So let's look at this logic really quickly for the user. So the first case is if the user has already been assigned. And by that I mean other application code has explicitly put some value into the assigns for the current user. And this happens generally in testing and in a case where, say, an admin or customer support impersonates a user so that they can see the application from that user's point of view and reproduce a bug that the user has filed, for example. So obviously in that case, we just want to use whatever has been assigned and not look at anything else. The next case is if there is a user ID in the session, then we'll just get the user out of the database using the accounts context, just the automatically generated get user function. And the third case, this true, remember in a cond, true simply catches everything else, much like an underscore often does in other pattern matching. Then we just set the current user to nil. We'll use a very similar pattern to get the referral code. So call this referral code, and it's going to be a conditional, just like it was with users. The fallback option, just like with users, will be that there is no referral code, so we'll set it to nil. And then if it's in the parameters, that will show up in con.params. And by parameters, I just mean if it's a query string parameter. So ACR stands for Alchemist Camp Referral. So if this is not nil, that means there is a parameter in the con, which means that there was an ACR equals something. So in the case that this matches, that means there was a query string parameter in the URL, and we will just set the referral code to whatever the value of that was. So con.params ACR. Then we're going to want to save that in the session. So let me scroll down a little bit. we'll put the referral code into the assigns so that we can use it from templates. So we do that with assign and referred by is what we'll call it, and just pass in the referral code. And we want to do a similar thing for the session, and there's a built-in function called put session that will do the same thing. Put session, there we go. So this will save a session with the referral code, and in order to actually use this saved session, we'll have to add some logic in the referral code conditional up here. So if it was in the params, we'll use that. If there isn't a referral code in the params, then we'll check the session. Con has a function called get session that works very much like put session. Get session referred by, and that'll just return the referral code which was previously put in the session. And remember that each branch of a conditional has to have an arrow. The left side is a match and the right side is what the conditional returns. We're going to save whatever we got out of this get session in a variable called RC for referral code, and then we'll return that as the result of the conditional. So once this conditional is done, the referral code is either going to be whatever was in the parameters, if anything. If there wasn't anything, then the next option will be whatever we got from get session referred by. And finally, if both of those fail, then the referral code is nil. And finally, we probably want to remove this referred by that we put into the session whenever somebody logs in. That's because if somebody already has an account, they may have been referred by somebody else, or they may have been referred by nobody, but either way, they've already got an account. So if someone hits a referral code and then they log in, that referral code is not what originally brought them to the site. What brought them to the site would have been in a referral code when they created their account, not when they're coming back to log in. So we will delete session and referred by. Do that, and that should be all the logic we need in our auth plug. Let's use this new referred by assign that is now available in every single template in our entire Phoenix app, and just put referral code of referred by, like so. And there's nothing in the plug. Let's see, got some bug here. Referred by and assign referred by referral code. Let's look at what the error is. Undefined. Okay, so something must not have compiled. Must have a bug. Line 25, undefined function get session, and that is because get session, just like put session, requires a con. Restart the server since that compile failed. Okay, page loaded, so that means we've definitely got a referral code in our assigns. Now let's try just looking at some episode, or let's look at the list of episodes, and ACR equals Bob, referral code Bob. Okay, so step one is successful. So let's have a look at our to-do list. We've gotten the referral from the URL. We have not saved the referrer in the database, but we've saved the referrer in a session. So we'll say save the referrer in a session, and the second part of that will be associate the referrer with the user upon creation in DB. And that's going to be a task for next episode. If you want to make sure you get that episode, subscribe and click the bell on YouTube, and keep an eye out at alchemist.camp. Till next time, code on.